Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down everything in District 4, week in, week out. My name is Brandon Baney, joined as always by Scott Burton. Scott, how are you today?
Hey, doing well. You said my name as if you were surprised to see my real name on the screen.
You usually like to come in with an alias or a moniker or, something fun. But today's show is going to be about a very serious topic. And so we wanted to bring the appropriate amount of seriousness to it. So
yeah, usually we're full of shenanigans and tomfoolery and all sorts of things. And people watch these and they recognize a face, but they never know who I really am because I never have my name there.
Yes.
So now people are watching this. Oh, that's the name and face together. So, but you're right. This is this podcast is going to be a little bit different in the sense of it's got a serious tone to it, and I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. We're going to bring on a guest that was kind enough to join us here in just a moment. I did want to highlight two quick things from boys basketball that I saw last night. It is Wednesday, January 11th when we're recording this. So these would be games played on Tuesday night, January 10th. We had a game last night, Scott, on IdahoSports.com, Magic Valley game night. It was Cary at Castleford.
Yeah.
A pretty important boys basketball showdown. We had Jonathan Drew and Katie Knight on the call, and it turned out to be a pretty good game. Castleford got the win over Cary 64-59. So that's a big win for Castleford, knocking off a Cary team that we talked about on a previous episode being pretty darn good. So now all of a sudden, this crazy mess of teams, Castleford's kind of thrown their hat into the ring a little bit. So that was a nice win for the Wolves. And check this out, Scott, on the other side for Cary in the losing effort, Carson Perks. We talked about what a dynamic scorer he is. He had 38 points last night, Scott.
That's insane. We talked about how dominant of a player that guy is, not just at scoring, but rebounding the basketball and just playing some solid defense, getting his team involved. I mean, this kid is the real deal. And, that's a name you're going to hear for a while still. He's not done, obviously, this year, but, in the coming years, if he decides to continue this, I mean, that kid's an athlete, period. And you mentioned Castleford. Man, they're off to a 7-3 start, just a couple of games behind league leader Lighthouse Christian, with Valley in the mix there, too. So, we talk about this particular conference quite a bit just because it is just an absolute juggernaut when you get into that top half, because you get all the way down to, where Glenn's Ferry is, sitting at 7-5. Then ahead of them, Murtaugh. Then you've got Castleford, Valley, Lighthouse. I mean, you got half these teams really with winning records, and unfortunately, not all of them can go to the state tournament. So watching these conference games play out and boys basketball, usually the back half of things are really conference loaded. Things are really going to shake themselves out in this conference, and it'll be fun to watch.
Definitely. And the school you didn't mention, Oakley, is one of the two teams that got to state last year. So they're always lurking there as well. So yes, that'll be a fantastic race. Also a good race at the 1A D2 level. We talked about coming in Dietrich, Richfield, Camas County, all three teams that probably could go to state. Top 10 teams in the classification. Only one will get to go. Richfield kind of delivered the opening blow last night. They defeated Camas County 57-52 on the road in Fairfield. Richfield 10-0. Look out.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about the conference in the 1A D1. This 1A D2 is really, no different, just less teams. Talent's still there. But my goodness, what a couple of solid teams with, Richfield leading the way, unblemished so far. And, and if you can make it out of this particular conference, with Dietrich and Camas there standing, at 12-6 a combined record, and you are running the table in this conference, that says something.
It's pretty impressive. So that's kind of a couple of things on the court that kind of stood out to me, caught my eye. And now we're going to transition to a conversation that very much takes place away from the athletic arena. So I'd like to welcome on one of your fellow ADs. For listeners that may not know, Scott Burton is the athletic director at Jerome High School. And we're going to bring on one of your counterparts from the 4A Great Basin Conference, Shaun Walker, the athletic director at Twin Falls High. Shaun, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. I didn't know I was wearing a black shirt today. I got orange here. I got black. You might as well be a Jerome Tiger.
I knew you would come to the light eventually. Walk. It was just a matter of time. Welcome aboard.
To be fair, mine is Idaho State. I refuse to drink the Jerome Kool-Aid. So.
Yeah, Dad. Brandon, knock it off. Yeah, you do.
Right. Well, Shaun was kind enough to join us today, but you are not in Twin Falls. You are on the road. You've been traveling a lot lately. This has been a difficult time for your family over the past couple of months, and it's been a really it's been amazing to see how the Magic Valley has come together to kind of rally around you and your family. So to start off with, Shaun, for those that may not be aware, talk a little bit about your daughter Harper and what she's been going through.
Yeah, sure. My daughter Harper is a sophomore in high school, 15-year-old girl. On the 17th of November, she was diagnosed with chondroblastic osteosarcoma. That's Jerome Tiger for bone cancer.
Thanks. I was going to ask you.
Yeah. Very rare form of cancer. Her cancer is in her sacrum, which is in her tailbone, which makes it even more rare. It's about 300 cases per year in the United States of chondroblastic osteosarcoma in your sacrum. So she's one of a kind, for sure. Her treatment, we are at the end of the third cycle of treatment. It's 10 cycles. It's basically from the 19th of November was her first chemo treatment. And she will walk around the nurses station at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah on the 30th of May and ring the bell and she'll be cancer free. So it's been a real roller coaster. A ride that I wouldn't want to take with anybody else other than Harper. She's no offense to anybody else. She's my toughest kid. She's got the most grit. She's got the most stubbornness, would be putting it lightly. And she's been an absolute stud through this whole thing.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Harper as a person. We know she's a great athlete and a talented student, but you have to have a different type of spirit to get through what she's gone through.
Yeah. Well, she's out of my children, she's the most like me. And depending on who you talk to, that's a real good thing or a real bad thing. She lost her hair, in the first part of December, and she asked me to come over and shave her head. And, it was tough. There's just no getting around that. But when I saw her bald, I just felt so sorry for her. She looks exactly like me. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think if you had people that know her describe her, very outgoing, has a lot of friends and different friend groups, very quick-witted, very quick to bite back too. She's not going to take anything lying down. And I think one of the things that maybe not a ton of people see is, she's really soft on the inside. If you can get there, loves her family to death, loves animals. Of course she loves sports, and, I love her. Her nickname is Mini Me. It's been that way since, I was throwing her in the pool at the Riverside Hotel when her brother was playing traveling baseball. It's the way it's always been.
Yeah. So you talk about being in that situation and not wanting to take that journey, with anybody or wish that upon anybody. my question is, what led you to getting her checked out or tested with her signs or symptoms and things like this? Because it is so rare of what she's going through. What led you to that part?
Yeah, crazy. Actually, I remember the first time that she talked to me about it. It was our homecoming dance, which was at the end of September. Got a good picture of all my daughters, and the dance was just getting going, and she came up to me and she said, "I'm leaving." I said, "What?" And she said that her back hurt. And I said, "Well, you're wearing heels. You never wear heels. So, that's probably it." And then the symptoms kind of came and went. She played volleyball for 3 more weeks. She was diving on the floor and doing all her stuff. And it just got progressively worse. Kind of got diagnosed as a hamstring pull, and maybe some sciatica and something with her nerves. And then it got to the point where, we had to take her to St. Luke's to the emergency room, and they didn't have an answer. And kudos to my ex-wife, Nikki. She just put Harper in the car and drove her to Primary Children's here in Salt Lake City and said, "Something's wrong with my daughter. Figure it out." And and it is so rare, and the type of osteosarcoma that she has is even more rare. So it was, one biopsy, and, our surgeon is like, "I don't see it. I don't see any osteosarcoma. I don't see any cancer." We're like, "Yeah, sweet. It can be anything but osteosarcoma." And then, we go round and round, and her symptoms don't improve. And we have another biopsy, and that biopsy goes to everywhere you can imagine in the United States. It goes to Harvard Medical School. It goes to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Went to this guy at the University of Miami who's supposed to be, if you can't figure it out, you send it to this guy. And it was that guy that said, they returned the sample and said, "Yeah, this is osteosarcoma." So that was about 5 weeks of, really not knowing. And then, the bomb just gets dropped on you,
And this happens. I mean, you mentioned, end of November, is when this all started happening. And then you've got holidays and a time of year where it's supposed to be warm and uplifting, and you've just been dealt this really serious news. How did that affect everyone in your family?
Yeah, so we all came down on the 17th. She was already here the 17th of November. And the 19th of November is my birthday. And that's when she got her first chemotherapy. So obviously I'm never going to forget that birthday. And it was, I don't know. I mean, it was all sorts of emotions, but having our whole family together, was really comforting to all of us, individually. And I think it was really comforting to Harper that, everybody was there, and, her sisters are there and her brother's there, and they're all cracking jokes and making fun of each other. And I think it went about as well as it could have. I mean, I didn't get any presents or anything, so I guess it wasn't as good as it could have been for me, but selfishly.
You talk about how rare this form of cancer is, and there's really no good cancer at all. But what is the MO on this type of cancer that really nobody's heard about? What does it do? What's the story behind it?
Yeah, so osteosarcoma, bone cancer, is hard to detect. And because it's hard to detect, or because, it's just painful, people just play it off as something else, and it happens a lot in athletes. I've got pain in my leg. Most of osteosarcoma is in your extremities, in your legs and in your arms. So athletes just kind of play it off as something else. And by the time you decide, I can't do this anymore, I've got to go see a doctor, then in some cases it's already spread. It mostly goes directly to your lungs. And if it gets there, you're in a lot of trouble. Because there's no surgery. You can't take out your lungs. So it's chemotherapy, and, sometimes it's radiation. And you just got to hold on and hope the chemistry or the biology inside the human being wins, And that's the tough thing about Harper's case, is it's in the sacrum. It's in her tailbone. Rarely can you take that cancer out without some serious morbidity. Initially we thought that surgery was going to be the best option. But her tumor is probably the size of a racquetball. It's 8 centimeters. And without getting too technical, it's basically covered her entire right side of her nerves, and creeps kind of around her spinal column, and may or may not have a hold of a couple of nerves on that side. The surgeon said, I can take it out, no problem. But there's no guarantee that I can save the nerves on the left side. And if you can't save the nerves on one side, then it's paralysis, loss of bodily function. And, when you go in there, it's not a save the nerves type of surgery, it's a cancer retraction. So there's no going back from there. And he just didn't really feel comfortable knowing that could happen. So we had to switch gears. We had to adapt. We had to pivot. And there's a newer type of radiation therapy called proton therapy. Instead of using electrons, you use protons. You can give higher dose in a more confined area, and there's not as much scatter. There's not as much radiation running through the body. So that's actually what we're doing down here. Yesterday and today, she got her radiation plan yesterday. She got a couple of cute little tattoos where these protons are going to be traveling into her sacrum. And then at 4:00 tonight, she'll have chemotherapy. So that's what we're doing.
And so far, how is everything going?
Really, really good. We've already had one CT scan. They don't normally scan this early in chemotherapy. They wait until, after the 10th week. But because we're doing this radiation therapy, they wanted to scan again. So they want to get a better look at the tumor. And the tumor has responded very well to her chemotherapy. The real good news for Harper that I don't think I mentioned is she has no spread. There's no signs in her lungs. Sometimes it goes to your jaw. There's no signs of cancer anywhere else in her body, but in her sacrum. So, we're gonna go through this chemotherapy. We're at the end of cycle 3. So she's got a chemo called methotrexate that she's going to take today, and hopefully we're home on the weekend, and she'll come back on Tuesday and another round of that. And then she starts radiation on the 25th of January. That's 8 straight weeks, Monday through Friday, 30-minute treatments. It's all outpatient. So you go in, they shoot the proton inside of you for 30 minutes, and you get to leave. In some cases, she'll have to come back down to primary children's because she's an inpatient for chemotherapy. But there are 4 weeks, I believe, where she's just going to stay down here with her mom and get her 30-minute treatments and hang out and then come home on the weekends.
And that's a lot of hotel is what you're talking about for staying. And that gets, I mean, the whole thing becomes, I mean, you can't put a price on your kid for sure.
Right.
But what the stress it puts on families is immense. And I think people that, don't know what it's like to go through something like this, there are so many added things that people don't see that cause stress and, just problems other than the actual thing that's going on. So, we're aware of your situation here in Jerome, and we're behind you 100%. You're a guy that's kind of holds things close to the vest most of the time.
Right.
You don't get very emotional, pretty stoic, and I can imagine that quality is needed a lot more now than ever before.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one thing that you probably know about me, Scott, is I really like to win. And I think that Harper has that same mentality. She doesn't talk about it a whole lot. She's pretty quiet, but she knows what's at stake. She's in the room when the doctors are talking, the oncologists and the surgeons are talking about all these things. And, she knows what she's up against, and she knows how to win. So I got a lot of confidence in her.
And I've got a sign in my office here that says, I don't know how I'm going to win. I just know I'm not going to lose.
Yeah, exactly right.
That kind of seems to be the mantra.
Yeah.
It's been pretty incredible to see the outpouring of support from not just the Twin Falls family, but the Magic Valley as a whole. There's been a GoFundMe organized by Tammy Har.
Mm-hmm.
They set a goal and they've already exceeded that goal. I mean, we're almost to $40,000 raised, which is just incredible. And I know a lot of the schools in the Magic Valley last weekend, Wood River hosted Caldwell, and they took all their proceeds and donated it.
Yeah.
Scott, this is something that I think all of the athletic directors in the Gray Basin Conference, I think, realize and are rallying together a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are, and we're doing the same thing. And we feel the thing about this situation is, first of all, you take Shaun. Shaun is not just a colleague, but he's a friend. And, I consider him a good friend of mine, and I would do anything in the world for him. And so when he gets into this situation, it feels like it's happening to one of us, because I think we're a pretty tight-knit bunch, and we have great friendships. But this is something that really, we're seeing a lot of the sport doesn't matter as much anymore. When Jerome and Twin play, this is what's on everybody's mind, and sure, the rivalry and the battle of the bridge and all that will still exist, and that will carry on. But for right now, that is so secondary to what's happening. And everybody here I know in Jerome knows it. And obviously Twin knows it too. So it's really put a different light on some of these games that we're playing. And then, to see people rally is very cool. It just shows the humanity in sports.
What's been your reaction to all of that, Shaun? These are, like Scott said, there's the rivalry right between you and every other school in the conference, but at the same time, there is that brotherhood and that sisterhood.
Yeah. It's funny that I guess there's two things that I think stick out to me is, what Scott said is 100% true. There is a brotherhood in the Magic Valley. The 4A, 4th District ADs are really close. It's hard being an AD because you're so busy. It's hard to enjoy what's going on. It's hard to really sit in a gym and just take it all in. But I was able to do that I have an older daughter who's a junior. And they got to play volleyball together, and they're on the court together, and my two stepdaughters are in the stands cheering for the Bruins. And I just remembered thinking, man, why don't I enjoy this more? This is heaven. It really is. And I've thought about that moment a lot because, the only time I've seen Harper in a gym, it's been, with a mask on, and it hasn't been the same. I can tell you that. And then just the outpouring of support for Harper. I used to think, I'm a pretty private person. And I used to think that this attention was semi-embarrassing, to be honest with you. My initial reaction was, hey, thanks, but we got this. We're good. We're going to be fine. And then as more people started supporting Harper and supporting our families, there was just no choice but to, open your arms and open your heart and just say, what have I done to deserve this? It's just been way bigger than I could ever describe. I mean, people, just a quick example, my friends saw somebody at a restaurant that they barely knew who didn't know me at all. They don't know Harper, but they knew my friends. And the guy walked up to him and said, hey, I haven't been able to go to a game or contribute. And he just flicked one of my friends two $100 bills. I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. And that's happened 100 times if it's happened once, Yeah,
it's incredible. And there's still a big fundraiser coming up as well. It will be on January 27th. They're calling it the Hype It Up for Harper event. Were you involved at all in the planning of this, Shaun, or was this just something they told you, hey, this is happening and we're gonna raise some money?
Yeah, I haven't been involved at all in anything really. People just tell me it's happening, and I say, yeah, let's go, bring it on. The first time we had anything like this was with Jerome. Their girls basketball team came and played ours in Twin Falls, and we had the childhood cancer color is yellow, so we kind of had a yellow out, and Scott and his group were first class. They had a gift basket for her, and there was a $500 gift card. Did you know that was in there, Burton? Yeah. I didn't know that till like 3 days ago. I'm like, who is this? And then it says Jerome Tigers. I'm like, Burton.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens. I didn't know Wood River was doing that, and I text Kevin Stilling, their AD, and I'm like, what are you doing? And obviously nobody tells me about these things because I would try to just say, hey, thanks, we got it. So they've learned not to contact me.
Yeah, you're less the better.
Right. And I really haven't been around a lot. I've been down here with Harper, and Twin Falls High School kind of gets lost in this whole thing, because everybody, Scott's contributed money. So has Canyon Ridge. So has Burley. Kevin and Wood River. They've all done incredible things, but Twin Falls High School is my second home, and they basically kicked me out of there. They said, you need to be with Harper every second of every day. We'll take care of everything. And what a godsend that's been. I don't know how people do it when they're torn between being with their kid for cancer treatment or going to work. I don't know how that happens, but I never had to make that decision. Ryan Nesmith, our principal, has just been outstanding in his support of me and for Harper.
Yeah, and that's another component too that people aren't realizing, that being an athletic director is it is the busiest job I have ever had in my entire life. And I know a lot of ADs will say the same thing. There is not a job like it that you can take a day off because there is always something happening. Busiest job there is. Well, now you've got to carry what you're carrying, not only emotionally, but time. And I think that's a great point you made, and I'm glad you made it, because I think the people over at Twin deserve a lot of kudos for, stepping in, not just to support you as a person, Shaun, but to help with the busiest job that you can have, and to make it run efficiently. And I think that says a lot about your school. I think it says a lot about, the people that you work with, Ryan and Nancy and everybody else there, who have been able to really kind of make this very seamless and unnoticeable that you've been juggling both of these. So I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to mention, a big shout out to your colleagues in Twin.
Yeah. And it's, there's been a couple of times where, Harper's got done with treatment and, it's 4:00 and we've got a home game, and I put the pedal down and I text, my administrators and say, I'll be there at 7:00. So, go home. And they try to tell me, we got it. It's covered. But, as you can attest, Scott, if you're in a gym on a Friday night and there's a basketball game going on, that's probably where you want to be. And that's where I was. And that was really healthy for me.
Well, and I bet that probably serves as some sort of escape for you as well, to kind of get back to at least something that resembles normalcy, to where you can actually relax your brain for a minute, because for the most part, when we go into these games and we're watching these games on a Friday night, a lot of times we're watching 15 different things, right? We're watching the game, we're watching our student body, we're making sure facilities are running, our coaches are acting right, and all of the above. And so there's a lot going on for an AD when they're watching a game on Friday night. But you put that in comparison to kind of what you've been going through, those Friday nights have got to be somewhat relaxing now.
Yeah, it was great. I was able to get to our game last Friday. We played Canyon Ridge at home. Our student body was rocking. We played good. Everybody was well behaved. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see how everyone has come together in support of this. We mentioned there's still an event coming up in Twin Falls, the Hype It Up for Harper benefit. It's going to be Friday, the 27th of January, right at the end of the month, 6 p.m. at the Twin Falls County Fairgrounds. So all of our Magic Valley audience watching and listening to this, if you're looking for something to do, Friday the 27th, no better way you could spend it besides being in a gym watching a basketball game. But a pretty good second is to be at the Hype It Up for Harper event. And again, that's at the Twin Falls County Fairgrounds in Twin Falls.
Yep.
It's going to be amazing to see. Scott, do you have anything else for Shaun before we let him go? I know he's a bit, and by the way, Shaun, thank you for taking some time to talk to us. I know you've got a million different things going on, and you could have just said, you know what, guys, I'm too busy. So I really want to thank you as well for coming on to talk about this.
Yeah, Brandon, it was my pleasure. I know that, sometimes we get into, you get the real story from somebody, and then down the line, it's something different. And when Scott asked me to come on, there was no hesitation. I think it's important that people understand exactly, what Harper's going up against and how confident we are in the people at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake and the Huntsman Cancer Center. This is going to be something that we'll look back on and go, man, I'm upset you didn't get to play basketball your sophomore year. It's going to be one of those things instead of, we got to battle this thing for the next 20 years. This thing's going to be done on May 30th. She's going to ring the bell and we're going to start her rehab so she can beat up on the Tigers a little bit.
Well, you know what? That would be something that I could stomach. Just getting her back is all we want.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, Shaun Walker, athletic director at Twin Falls High, but more importantly, proud parent of Harper. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll continue to keep you and your family in our prayers as we move forward. And And yeah, we'll keep you on our minds for sure.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, see you, buddy.
Yeah,
See you, Shaun. Yep. So there you go, Scott. This was an important conversation to have, I think. I think most people in the Magic Valley knew what was going on, but, I'm glad to bring this to the forefront so everyone can help if they can.
No, and I agree. And I think Shaun said it perfectly right at the end, that a lot of people know what's going on, but they don't know what's going on. But this was something to kind of get the facts out, set the record straight, and not there's record needed to be straight, but just so everybody knew what the real situation was. And and there's no better cause than to rally around your kids. And this whole thing to me is, I mean, I don't know, it gets me right in the feelers. I'm a girl dad, and whenever you are a parent, you put yourself in that position a lot, and you kind of ask yourself some real honest questions about how would I behave? How would I respond to this? And you never know until it actually happens. I'm sure Shaun can tell you he couldn't dream of this in a million years and how he would react. But that's life, man. And you just don't know. So you end up putting yourself in these positions, and man, I feel for the guy and his family and everything else. And like I said, man, I mean, that guy's a friend of mine, and I hate to see it, but we're in his corner, and we're gonna be with him through the whole thing. So the end of May, when that bell rings, it's gonna be a great day.
Yeah, we can't wait until that day arrives. And I can empathize with Shaun. I'm kind of like him. I'm kind of more, I keep things close to the vest. So I can certainly empathize with him sharing this and being this public about something that is uncomfortable to talk about. Certainly, yeah. I understand that too.
Yeah. Well, and the thing was, he's right. He never hesitated when I asked him, didn't even have to think about it. He was like, absolutely. And, that says a lot about kind of where he's come in this process too, because, he is a kind of a private person and does keep things close to the vest. But when it came to his daughter, absolutely, let's go. And I thought that was very cool. And so, yeah, if you can't make that event on the 27th at the fairgrounds, then visit the GoFundMe page, because there is a lot going on here to get somebody through this type of situation, and we all want to help as much as we can. And I'll be there on the 27th, and be ready to rock and roll and support the Walker family and Harper and here at Jerome. We're going to do everything we can to help, because our rivals are probably number one rivals, but there are things that are bigger than rivalries, and this is obviously one of them.
Certainly. And it's amazing to see these communities come together. I'll wrap it up here in just a second, but there's a similar thing is happening in North Idaho right now, where Craig Teft, the longtime St. Mary's football coach, is battling cancer, and they've printed off all of these T-shirts in support of his fight. We're Teft strong, and St. Mary's, their boys basketball team was playing Kendrick in a game earlier this year, and Kendrick, without St. Mary's knowing, bought T-shirts for every player on their team, and they showed up to warm up wearing those Craig Teft T-shirts. It was a pretty cool deal that happened up there in North Idaho. So
yeah, it's so good to see. I mean, you hate the circumstances in which those camaraderie things happen, but there's always something positive that can come out of every situation. And what you hope for is the best for our coach up north, Harper. And then the lessons that we learn from all of this don't just go away with the situation, and I think that's the one thing I would like to see happen, is just to remember kind of what we all did to come together and remember that, and not need a tragedy to do so, because no matter what, there will always be something bigger than the game that you're watching or you're playing or you're coaching. And we kind of lose sight of that sometimes. And we all got reminded of it with the Monday night game with Buffalo and Cincinnati. And that really kind of, sprinkled a lot of humanity in sports. And you saw teams come together, and it's great to see. And I think everybody can come together in a certain circumstance. And I think that's awesome. I would like to see it transcend beyond the tragedy and beyond the event, to where it's like, hey, we're people first, man. Let's come together. I'm going to kick your butt out on that field or on that court. You guarantee it. But I'm not going to be a jerk about doing it because, there's things that are bigger.
Yeah, I mean it's just a game, and then there's the game of life, right? And that's the one you really want to win at, and the Walkers are continuing to fight and win. So yeah, I agree with everything you said, Scott. This was a good topic, a good conversation, and like you said, can't wait till May 30th when Harper gets to ring that bell and put this behind her. So thanks to everybody for tuning in to the Magic Valley Prepcast this week. We'll be back again next week talking about the biggest stories that are happening in the Magic Valley. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in on IdahoSports.com.